This is Plant-Based Briefing, Breaking the Trance, Vystopia, and the Cube of Truth, Part 1 by Clare Mann at veganpsychologist.com. I'm Marian Erickson. This is the curated content plant-based podcast where I narrate articles on plant-based and vegan living with permission in about 10 minutes or less every weekday. And this article would be longer than that, so it's a two-parter. I'll read the first part today and then tune back in tomorrow for the second half. And yesterday's episode was about a three-headed monster slowing the vegan movement. It was a bit of a depressing article, but realistic and important for everybody to face. So today I thought it would be good to share something about activism, how we can make a difference. So now let's get to today's plant-based briefing. Breaking the Trance, Vystopia and the Cube of Truth, Part 1 by Clare Mann at veganpsychologist.com. You may know about the Cube of Truth public rallies in cities around Australia. As part of a global movement called Anonymous for the Voiceless, animal advocates don masks and create a physical square in a public place whilst holding TV screens with images of undercover animal cruelty in abattoirs. Reports all over the world say that most people stop to see the footage and ask for more information. We all know how difficult it is to get friends or family to see graphic images of animal cruelty. They often resist seeing videos of cruelty and refuse to even talk about it. When we raise these issues, we're criticized for being fussy eaters or telling people what to do. Why is it easier for people to view animal cruelty in the Cube of Truth than to listen to friends and family about where their food comes from? I believe it is because people are in a social trance, i.e. the societal programming they don't even realize they're part of. Living in a trance. Existential philosophy is the study of what it is to exist. Existential writers talk about the trance-like behavior and how it limits us in how we live our lives. Heidegger talks about the they-self and Nietzsche the herd, both showing the power of society on how we see ourselves and others. In my book, The Myths of Life and the Choices We Have, I call it the group myth. The group myth is the unquestioned assumption that it's better to be part of a group than to be an individual. Our family influences from the moment we are born, and the ideals, values, and expectations we learn there continue to follow us throughout our lives. The group myth is so powerful that we can lose a real sense of who we and others are. The following quote by Cooper, although written in flowery existential language, sums this up. One of the first lessons one is taught in the course of one's family conditioning is that one is not enough to exist in the world on one's own. One is instructed in detail to disown oneself and to live agglutinatively so that one glues bits of other people onto oneself and then proceeds to ignore the difference between the otherness of oneself and the self-sameness of oneself. This is alienation in the sense of a passive submission to the invasion of others, originally the family other. The power of the group myth. In conversations, body language like tone of voice, facial expression, and gestures all add meaning to the words we use. When we have a vested interest in a relationship, we tend to automatically interpret their body language based on assumptions of our shared history and past conversations. Example: in conversations with family members, you might regularly hear them say, "Here we go again," when you raise your eyebrows. When you do this in a conversation about veganism because you're unsure about something they said, it's likely that they'll unconsciously react to your subtle facial changes and say, "Here we go again." In a fraction of a second, their attention moves to the interaction and shared history with you, rather than what you're saying. A button has been pressed, and the conversation becomes emotionally charged. You're likely to unconsciously realize this and automatically change your behavior to get them to focus on what you're saying. Automatically, you adjust the tone, content, or urgency of your message. This then triggers a reaction in them, which you pick up, making you feel judged, criticized, or laughed at, and the whole interpersonal dance continues. The person you've been speaking with shifts their attention away from the emotional content of the vegan message to the emotional energy in your interaction. The result is that the listener shifts their attention to how they feel about you, rather than how they feel in relation to the animal cruelty. The Cube of Truth enables someone to consider animal cruelty without relationship dynamics getting in the way, because the exchange between activist and observer is impersonal. The person holding the screen is anonymous behind a mask. Masks and body language are symbolic of a social trance. Observers experience their emotional reactions alone. facial expressions of the person behind the mask can't be seen, and there's a perception of watching the material in isolation. Anonymous for the Voiceless is an apt name for this movement, since people holding the television screens are totally unknown to the public who aren't able to identify the activists who could be their mother, brother, or neighbor. As the person watches the screens, they can't see the micro-facial expressions that would exist even in the most non-judgmental activist. The result is that the observer experiences their own feelings in relation to the animal cruelty footage, something they're often able to avoid if a conversation with someone they know becomes heated. I believe that in this unique social exchange, the non-vegan doesn't feel judged. The trance is momentarily broken, and they are challenged to consider their existing beliefs about where their food comes from. The reactions then switch from, "I have a right to choose what to eat," to, "I can't believe this is happening," and often, "What else don't I know?" When they reach this conclusion, the guard is lowered, and they're more likely to want answers to their questions. The unmasked activist in the crowd can then step in and discuss the issues as if they too have been duped. Anonymous for the Voiceless is a unique opportunity to challenge people's experience of what they currently believe is normal. In face-to-face exchanges, we don't always have this opportunity in the same way. This shift in interpersonal complexity is key to understanding the depth of the vegan's trauma. In conversations about animal cruelty, we want them to connect emotionally with the effect of their food choices, but often their emotional reactions are outside of the confronting material itself. Anonymous for the Voiceless momentarily enables a person to escape the trance and more easily see the truth. You just listened to Breaking the Trance, Vystopia and the Cube of Truth, Part 1 by Clare Mann at veganpsychologist.com. And I'm Marian Erickson, your host. Tune in tomorrow for the second half of this episode, where you'll hear about Vystopia, or the existential crisis experienced by vegans, and some things you can do to survive in a dystopian world. So please share this episode with anyone who might benefit, and thanks for listening.